We shall now move on to the second session of the evening, titled The Rise of Microfiction, presented in collaboration with Pen at Prithvi. We have with us on the panel Devashish Makhija, Chintan Ruparel, Anuj Gosalia, Kruttika Nadig, who is actually on her way and will be here soon, and Jennifer Robertson as moderator. I shall briefly introduce our panelists. Devashish Makhija is a filmmaker, screenwriter, graphic artist, fiction writer, and poet. Best known for his feature film Unga, he is also the author of several children's books. He has made 2 short films for Terribly Tiny Talkies and is also actively involved with Terribly Tiny Tales. Chintan Ruparel, our next panelist, is the co-founder and chief curator of Terribly Tiny Tales. He has worked in the advertising industry for 7 years and has worked on various brands, the campaigns of which have gone on to win national and international awards. Chintan also makes short films as part of Terribly Tiny Talkies. Anuj Gosalia, our next panelist, is the CEO and co-founder of Terribly Tiny Tales, which is the online platform that brings together writers to create one tweet-sized story every day. Jennifer Robertson, who will be moderating the panel, is a Bombay-based poet and critic. Her book reviews and essays have appeared in publications such as the American Book Review, The Telegraph, and on Scroll.in. She co-curates the Literary Encounters session for the Penn All India Centre, and her first poetry manuscript was chosen for the Editor's Choice Award by the Great Indian Poetry Collective and will be published in July this year. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction. Good evening and a very warm welcome. A reinvention or a renaissance. What does the Instagram generation want? Terribly Tiny Tales took wings almost 3 years ago, and I'm told they have close to about 2.5 lakh readers every week. And
2.5 million.
2.5 million, sorry. 2.5 million readers every week, which keeps growing exponentially. That's the kind of scale which is completely unimaginable and heroic. I would like to invite Anuj to give us a brief about the journey and give us a context to what TTT is all about.
The mic is working. Sure. Am I audible? So how many of you guys know about us, Terribly Tiny Tales? That's heartening. So about 60, 70 odd % of the population. So for the ones who don't know, Terribly Tiny Tales was founded on the 3rd of March 2013 as well a terribly tiny attempt to get people to read a bit more, including myself. I think with dying attention spans, one disheartening thing is that we don't read books as much as we did back in the day. And so clearly there was a need for a platform that brought the love for reading back, even though it didn't take too much of your time. So Terribly Tiny Tales now is India's largest microfiction platform. We put out anything, all stories under 1400 characters. So be it a poem, be it a tweet-sized tale, be it a 6-word tale. We put them out on a daily basis. They come from, across the world. We have countries like America, the UK, Pakistan, Indonesia, so many countries that participate now in this movement. And the ambition, of course, is to build this as a platform where people can read on the move. While you were traveling on your way here, you could have read a few stories, on a bus ride, on the pot, wherever. The ambition is to get people to read more, imagine a little more, and share their own stories. We also believe that each one of us is a writer, so there was never the pretension to be a literary brand, to be dethroning literature. We believe in stories, we love stories, and we want each one of you to write your own story when you submit to us on TTT. So that's Terribly Tiny Tales.
Session over, he said everything.
Okay, they sound like thought leaders to me. Really, really disruptive. They're taking an art form and giving it a business model, which is really, really working.
Sorry, we have another panelist who's just arrived from Pune.
All right. Hey, Kruttika has just arrived fashionably late. Welcome, Kruttika. Please.
Can I add something to what Anuj said? So his original intent, like he said, was not to challenge or add to literature, but he wanted to really challenge the consumption of images online, because people were more oriented to watching things or looking at things, but not reading things. So he came up with this idea of treating text as an image, the form of an image. And I find that actually a very challenging idea and a very challenging triumph of TTT.
So as I was saying, this is truly thought leadership at its best. I'd like to probably, straight away pose a question, since you mentioned that you don't want it to be pretentious, you want it to be accessible. And I would like to invite probably all three of you in parts to talk about it. While you're looking at a form like writing and you want to make it accessible and appeal to masses so that it's more inclusive, how does one achieve that without compromising on quality or, keeping that in mind? That was an allegation. That's something that your detractors have been talking about. And I know there are certain measures and due diligence that you've done. So if you could take turns to talk about that.
I think we're slightly dysfunctional. If we put out a bad story, we won't get sleep at night. So by design, there have been lots of Me Too pages who've come up and who are doing the hackiest thing by going with the story that will get the oohs and the ahs, and they'll pander to the lowest common denominator. But I think we've kept that curation very strong, and we're sort of building more tech and systems to enable storytelling, and also to make sure that we don't. There's something in it for everyone, but it's not just with a motive to get likes, because we never started that way, and we'll never do that. So, we'll do all kinds of stories.
Based on the feedback that they received, there was a lot of fine-tuning and curatorial practices that they brought into account. There is a deck that we've put together. If Chintan, you'd like to take them through that, and then we could move on.
Okay, so those of you who've been following us recently, since Jan, we've just made it a little tidier. I don't know if this is on. I think it's not working.
Can they can change the slide?
Sorry, so this is, what we did is we went, we were getting lots of content, and we were getting entries from everyone, because everyone wanted to be a part of the universe, including brands, and including people from across the world, because they're stories and they're not attached to a culture or a region or a religion or whatever. So we've opened up storytelling to different sections, and which is why we had to sort of tidy the classification. So TTT Select is actually how we started. It wasn't called Select back then, but we started with Anuj inviting 15 writers, who used to write interns. So we sort of carry that back, and we brought it back, and now we have 15 writers who write in turn every day. These are handpicked storytellers, and this is one example of a story by a writer with us called Tapoja. His only companion left for a new foster home. Emotion stayed restrained, stepped on a stray red crayon, uncontrollably bled loneliness. So the word crayon is used very interestingly. What we do is we give a word basket to the writer, and they have about 15 days to submit their tale, and then we put out the best tales and they write in turns. So it's as simple as that, and this is the first season currently of the official Select that's going on. This is another tale by Kruttika. She's with us here, and the word given to her was button. An unfamiliar button, a rusty key, a faded letter, all fell into the gap in the old sofa. Secrets and memories both sold to the highest bidder. Very interesting use of the word button. Communities, of course, tales from around the world that we curate on a daily basis. We get hundreds of entries daily, and we have a curation system in place where we pick and choose the best ones. There's a question going to come from Jennifer. How do you pick the best ones? So I'll reserve the answer for that. But these are tales essentially curated from around the world. This is an example of one tale. It says, do you believe in life after death? Yes, said the widow. The rose sat on her balcony, peeling a human child limb by limb. He loves me not. Like a parallel universe of sorts. This is TDD Masterclass. So tales that push the boundaries of storytelling by, making the construct extremely fresh and innovative, and yet staying true to the story at heart. We have classified into TDD Masterclass. So occasionally tales that we think break the boundaries and push it into a new sphere, we sort of tag it as Masterclass. So these are really painstakingly crafted. So for example, the word is plug here, and Ankita, one of our writers, wrote this. Once I pulled the plug on your dreams, I hurt you. Still you pull the plug now. Remove my pain. I owe you one child. It's clearly a story of a parent stifling the dreams of a kid when he was young, and now when the parent is on a ventilator, the kid is relieving the parent. This is another tale by one of our writers. He's our in-house writer. He works with us in our office. He's also the assistant curator of TDT, Kumel. My freckles are your constellations. Your tongue navigates mine. In the labyrinth of our goosebumps, I lose and I find. This is tinier. We also do 6-word tales because they've been, I think 6-word stories are celebrated widely even before there was TDT or anything else. So these are powerful stories packed in 6 words or fewer. One example, it's a girl. Hello, hello, hello. Why this is interesting is because you can interpret this in any way. It can be of somebody who's very dejected to hear that it's a girl, or it can be of somebody who's very surprised and shocked and happy, so there's no answer, right? So that leaves room for interpretation, and that is, very exciting. Slept, woke up in a womb. I personally have always believed that, what a writer or a painter or a filmmaker does is not art. It becomes art when someone comes in contact with it. Till then it's expression. So I believe these are really true and interesting expressions, and people make it their own, and then it becomes art, if at all. Workshop tales. So we do workshops around across the country. We get invited by various colleges and institutions who are catching up to this trend, and they want to be involved, and we make them a part of our tiny universe. So we get invited, and either of us or both of us or some of us fly down to colleges and institutions, and we just take a 2-hour intensive workshop, interactive rather, because it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of question answers and a lot of jokes and a lot of tips on writing, and we also make them write a tale. So the best tales that come out of there get published on the page. This is a sample. The word was now. Then she was just another checkpoint he thought he conquered. Now she became the entire battle. I think what we can't see here is the top left where there is the tag workshop. I think because there's some system here where we can see full screen, you can't see the tag. The word was again. This was in a workshop in MIT Pune. I keep telling myself to never make the same mistake twice, but here I am in front of you again. Special is basically tales that are written for special occasions. It's pretty simple, whether it's Christmas or Diwali or Republic Day, Independence Day. So this was an interesting one for Christmas. Promise me you'll keep a secret, whispered the child of a single mother. Santa is actually a woman. I saw her last night. This did pretty well on the page. First Diwali after marriage. As his arms lift her up, they clear dust of inaccessible corners. We have different kind of Lakshmi here. So collaboration tales again, brands keep coming to us and tell us if they can reach our audience and if they can be a part of our storytelling. So, we were thinking how to include them, but I think we managed to sort of keep a balance and let the story win first, and then we have a no product system. We don't push products through tales at all. We take the main hook of the brand and weave a story around it, and the story goes on the page regardless. Whenever brand comes or fits, we're happy to include them. So this is an example of a tale by Cornetto, or with Cornetto. Their fingers met over the braille board. It was love at first sight. There is no ice cream cone here. There's nothing of that sort. In fact, we've pushed the story even further by having a braille version of it on the left side. that's actually written in Braille. This was for United Colors of Benetton. In the war-torn city, bullets echoed, 4 girls tiptoed to its rhythm. The ballet lessons would finally be put to use. Now, I don't know if all of you guys know, but Benetton globally is known for very disruptive campaigns that spark controversies, and they believe, so funnily, United Colors of Benetton, colors is used to divide, right? But they unite by their campaigns. They've done some really path-breaking campaigns like Unhate and others. So when they came to us, we knew it was a natural fit. They would not push a pant or a shirt or a piece of boxers. They want to sell the angle of unity. TDD Glimpse is something that we introduced this year. It's thoughts, musings, there's a typo there. Thoughts, musings, stories, all under 1400 characters. So this is an example of a glimpse that Anuj has written. So this is how it goes out on the page. The picture has one line from the entire extract. Her sweat merges with mine like the communion of ancient rivers. Can I take a minute more and read the thing? Allow me to read this because it's very nicely written. It's called Electricity. Her nails leave crimson crevices on my back. To avenge, I make teeth-shaped craters below her neck. Today the city is a forest, an endless abyss of dark. The light insects don't have tubelet nests to trapeze into. No winter wind walking on fragile city dreams. It's a quiet, quiet night. Like every other home, a candle lights a corner of our room. The faint yellow traces the beautiful imperfections of her body. Her sweat verges with mine like the communion of ancient rivers. We're on the edge of grace. As the night gets darker, we come closer. Our body is moving to a hungry rhythm. In the distance, old uncles make calls to the electricity board. Some flaccid gentlemen walk themselves down and chatter with the building watchman. Aunties toss and turn, fretting over their morning responsibilities. Children cry. But us, lovers, animals of the quiet night, we gnaw into each other until our bodies illuminate our souls. We are no prisoners of electricity, we make our own. So this is an example of TDD Glimpse, and we started with this one. It's written by Anuj here. This is another one, and I'm just going to skip this one because in the interest of time. And that's about it as far as the classification is concerned, so quite a long one.
Thank you. Thank you for reading that one. It was beautifully written, Anuj.
Thank you.
This part of the session I'd like to call fried or roast or what have you. We have a very own homegrown voice of dissent, Devashish Makhija. He was part of the TDD team initially when it was set up and an integral part of the core team. He has very pronounced opinions about art and commerce. And I thought it would be interesting to have him on the panel. And I think it's extremely courageous for both Anuj and Chintan to sort of, deal with all the detractors and all the allegations that have come their way. So I think that's courageous. I would like for Devashish to talk a little about, what you feel about art and commerce being separate. Don't you think sustainability is important when we are looking at enabling such large numbers? Young India is clearly wanting to express themselves. There are a lot of emotional tales. They're finding a sense of belongingness. So it is definitely sort of galvanizing and bringing a community together, which itself is a feat. I would like to mention that. Having said that, I know our concern is what are we doing with quality? How are we teaching them to write? Would you like to expound a little more on that?
It's a very difficult place I find myself in.
Because he's sitting next to me, I can strangle him.
Which is why I didn't sit there between the two of you. It's my predominant struggle with writing, whether it's a terribly tiny tale or not just writing or making a film, is quality. And when the discourse in this case, it's not about art and commerce as much as it's about quantity and quality. And as much as Chintan rightly says that they don't concern themselves with likes and shares, that medium of Facebook or Instagram online, that's the currency of the medium. The same way if you go to go by the box office in cinema, here you go by likes and shares. So somewhere if that currency is not, if you're not referring to it in magnitude, you find yourself failing. You find yourself not being able to reach out to 2.5 million people every week. But the minute you're trying to work backwards from the numbers, because after a point, it's happened with the best filmmakers. I keep using filmmaking as an analogy because I understand that a little better than what they are really doing. But if you subconsciously start working backwards from the numbers and you start thinking about, okay, the audience seems to like this, so maybe this will travel further than that. And most of the time the predictions are right. And I find that really frightening that, you're now going to start thinking about what the audience wants, but that wasn't the original intention of a platform like this. And me, personally, the 14 or 15 writers who were in the original lot, I got the least likes and shares. But there was a lot of support from Anuj and the other writers saying that they thought some of my tales were stellar. So I was in that constant push and pull between, is this a medium that is oriented to quality? Should I continue in this medium? Because I'm not going to get that currency that this medium actually deals in. So I chose to withdraw. And that argument of art and commerce, it exists in every medium. And after a point, it's the person who's created that platform whose prerogative it is. Like a producer, when he puts money in a film, it's his prerogative what he wants to do with the film. A director can choose to walk out. And so as a creative person, only in TTT, I chose to depart.
But they have taken measures, and as you can see with Glimpse and Select, they have slightly evolved tales, and they're looking at that segment as well. So don't you think it's taking this approach where it is still remaining inclusive and reaching out to as many people?
It's the two very different prerogatives. Wanting to be inclusive, giving a sense of belonging to people, enabling them to write, that's one thing. But the other, again, is quality. And you might be, creating these different sub-genres, really, subsets. But it's, again, a very subjective perspective. I find the quality deteriorating. I mean, there's a lot of the tales that are, 80% of the tales roughly are about love. And that really is a more universally acceptable theme. And they are almost tiresome in repeating the way they go about those themes.
Probably it's also the demographic that they're probably dealing in. Here at this particular time, I would want to talk about the mentorship approach that they've taken, and Kruttika is one of the mentors with the team. So Kruttika, if you could, talk about your stint with them, how you approached it, and how you're going about mentoring people.
Hi, I'm Kruttika, and I've been writing for TTD for 3 years, almost 3 years now, I think, with a gap in the middle before you introduced Select.
Yes.
Yeah. So I worked with them on their campaign, on their ongoing campaign for UCB, where some of the older writers like me were given charge of a group of junior writers who have also written for them and who are also very good. They're part of the inner circle. And we just had to work together over a period of 1 month, and we were given themes that would bring out the brand's message. And we had to craft tales. So basically they would send me their drafts and I would sort of, share my thoughts, and then we would polish all of our tales, including my own, and send them to these guys. So what was interesting about that was that the people I was working with, who are all doing their, undergraduation, they had a lot of good ideas. They had a lot of good ideas which weren't necessarily very generic or, to do with campus romance and so on, which are the themes that we see when we get tales from the community of a similar age group. So they had some really interesting ideas, but the thing I found, I don't know if it's been brought up yet because I came late, but what I noticed about them was one of the reasons they couldn't convey those ideas well was because they didn't seem to be great readers. So they had great thoughts and they just didn't have the right words, or they didn't know the right phrases to express those. So even to bring that out, to say that this sentence structure is totally wrong. It doesn't matter if the message is amazing. You have to change the whole thing. So that was something that had to be talked about. And I think it was interesting for everybody because, even they realized that they just had to do away with a few things, and there were some tales that, I mean, I looked at them and I just knew that this is going to be so popular. It's going to get, whatever, 20,000 likes. But there was just something wrong about the whole sentence. And I was like, no, you have to change this. I'm not accepting this. Sorry, you know. So, but in the end, we like, they did come up with really good stuff. So yeah, that's one insight, that storytelling has really caught on as a form of expression for the generation. You know, they want to tell stories in all kinds of forms, TTTs being one of them. But I don't know how many stories they are consuming and what is the quality of that input. And that's equally important. You know, I mean, you can't just be saying that I'm going to write, and I'm going to put out my poetry and my short films and so on and so forth, and not spend enough time studying that art form. So, yeah.
That's a very interesting input. The fact that people don't read as much today and read work that is, I mean, that allows you to create good work. So yeah, I mean, from our side, just, well, not in defense of quality, because we're increasingly moving towards becoming a platform, right? So we eventually don't want to be barometers of quality, because we are humans with biases. Of course, as TTT is today, you know, we do, I mean, Chintan and the team spend a lot of time trying to like serve a range of stories to the audience, also because you know, we don't have the technology yet to serve different audiences what they like. So typically the stuff that goes out on a daily basis, we wouldn't want Devashish to consume all of it, you know. But because it's on Facebook and it gets beamed to every fan, he also has to read some of the work that he may not like personally. So we also have to then accommodate a larger audience, which comes with its share of challenges, because if we choose something more niche, it may not reach the number of people that follow us. So it's, we don't want to reverse engineer, but at the same time, we can't not give the audience. So we think of ourselves as a studio, like a film studio, like a UTV, if I had to use a film analogy, where I am going to make a Bajirao Mastani because it will reach a whole lot of people, but I'm also going to start a UTV Spot Boy, which is select, and produce an Amir, which a handful of people will read, but we believe in it as much as Bajirao Mastani. So that's our stance. I mean, these are the challenges that come with a larger community. We're trying to figure ways through technology and through programming how to sort of get people what they want without really compromising on the hygiene of it. Yeah.
Devashish, why is love so bad? I mean, the world is getting so cynical. Why? I mean, I
Don't
would
oversimplify.
not-
I did not use the word bad. I just meant a little overused, and when something gets a little overused, it tends to reach into a person a little less, because you're exposed to too much of it, and there's a certain apathy that comes as a result.
I mean, I would probably understand if you speak about the structure or the way it's framed, and so on and so forth. But I do feel that there is a need to sort of reinstate that. What are the other themes that are typically emerging in the demographic that you're looking at, apart from, if any of you could talk about it?
If you go back to the one of the tales, I don't know if I can. Like this tale, for example, is a brand tale. It doesn't read any different from a normal tale. Same with this, we pushed it a little bit and made it, we just didn't take it as it was, we did something more with it. If I talk of this one, it's such a different side to love. I mean, I don't know, I haven't heard this thought or seen this before. This idea, this thought, this angle to love and Diwali and cleaning a house because a first marriage has to bloom in the initial days. This one, for example, has love if you talk of mother and son or mother and daughter, and is a very different story. You know, this one is again love, but it's more about love and heartbreak. You know, like this one is not love. This one is a very different take on child, I mean, bias against women, and you know, this is a love tale which is a masterclass tale if I'm not wrong. and it's a very different side to intimacy. Um, this is again euthanasia. This one is again by the community, and I wanted to come here because this tale is almost like a parallel universe. Even if it's love, it's a side of love that we haven't thought of or we don't see usually. So, in my defense, or in our defense rather, I don't think we pander to an audience and do only Yashraj kind of stuff. We also do QTV Spot Boy, as he said. And I mean, you can actually go through the tales in the last 30 days and you'll see not only tales from Pakistan, Bangladesh, Singapore, Philippines, but also see different themes. And I think, Devashish, you should just try and look at the last 30 days, if not the whole year that you've been apart. So I think that takes care of the only love part. I am in staunch disagreement of the fact that we do love tales only, or we pander or do more love. I think it's a healthy balance.
I think where Dave was probably coming from, his themes are socio-political. I think they
No,
need
it was not personal. I'll explain what I was trying to really say. I think I was taking off from you saying that you don't really worry about the likes and shares. And I'm totally in agreement with what Anuj was saying, that you are really trying to create a platform of inclusivity where people are getting empowered to write. I buy that completely. But when you say that you're not worried about the likes and shares, I don't buy that, because somewhere, if that's the currency of the medium, there needs to be accorded some respect to that currency, because I did. I respected the fact that my stories weren't getting likes and shares. I realized that I'm putting in a lot of effort and I'm not getting an equivalent return, so I'd rather exit.
He got hurt as a writer, I
understand
think.
that perspective and that objective of this thing, and that's what I respect.
Isn't that more interesting to really think about then what the audience's, response to a particular kind of tale? Maybe it's a larger question to really think why is it that the audience is not responding or is not inclined towards more socio-political, slightly more important issues to talk about?
So, like Chintan said, they are. Sometimes, like if...
they're not as popular. They're not as popular.
In fact, some days they are, but it also depends on the topicality, because TTT being something that's consumed in 24 hours, almost doesn't have a life beyond that 24 hours. If something has happened today, say the 26/11 attacks, if there was a tale on the 26/11 attacks during the attacks, it would probably get double the number of likes and shares that a love tale would. So it's again, the lifespan has something to do with the socio-politicalness of it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm very sorry. What we missed here is TTT Live. What he was talking about, topical tales, we do that as well. And those are really, issues that happen in the world around and news that needs to be storified. We do that as well. Just wanted to...
Yeah, so on the subject of socio-political tales, patriotic tales do really well on TTT. They do. But the moment the thought expressed is patriotism, but it's a little more subversive, or it's a little controversial, or people might have a difference of opinion, that's where you see the different kind of responses. So if, like for instance, Devashish wrote a tale which had to do with displaced villagers, I'm not sure how many people got that, because maybe they don't even know what's happening in certain parts of our
country. They didn't not just get it, I got trolled and I got hate mail saying that, तो तेरे को क्या लगता है कि CRPF वाले नहीं मरते क्या वहाँ पे? I said that's not the point I was trying to make. But that's okay. If I made a film on that situation, which I did, that film got rejected too. And that's okay. That's not the point I was making. Which is what I was saying, a socio-political tale is not the problem. It's really...
So that also might be a symptom of this larger thing where we don't really talk about these subjects, we don't have conversations about them in our home or with our friends. When we do have heart-to-heart conversations, it's probably about relationships and, parents and stuff like that. We don't have heart-to-heart talks about what's happening in, Madhya Pradesh or Kargil and things like that, which is probably what we see. That's the kind of response we get therefore. But tales which are all-out patriotic, like the tale about the soldier who passed away and was found under the ice and so on.
Even
those
this
tales,
one.
obviously people really identify with those because everybody has the same opinion. It's not uncomfortable. Tales that make people uncomfortable probably don't do as well because we are not used to putting ourselves in those situations.
We've got threats and we've got inbox messages and we've got lots of people telling us to take stuff down. I don't remember we taking down stuff.
No, we didn't, but Facebook did.
Yeah, Facebook took it down.
So, yeah.
So young India is really wanting to express themselves. I think there is this dire need to talk about certain things. And clearly, Anuj, if you could probably talk
Sure.
about why do you think this kind of, this response is so huge and humongous? What really happened here? Why has it scaled the way it has?
I think many reasons. One is, I think, the fact that your traditional publishing model is quite broken, right? So, for aspiring writers like maybe all of us are, and I mean, you guys are also published writers. It's very hard to strike a book deal in the country. Second is you don't get paid as much as you should be legitimately paid. Then, of course, there is the big problem of distribution and the fact that even if your book gets produced or gets published, how many people are actually going to read it unless it's backed by solid marketing? So there is tons of writers in the country who are aspiring, who have a quality benchmark, but because this system is a funnel system where tons of manuscripts go to publishers, they take forever to revert, and plus they have X number of books that they can publish in a certain year. There's so many of these writers who remain undiscovered, unpublished, and then the only platforms they have are Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and that's ironically and great for us, also the platforms where people are now reading. So I'm not unfortunately opening a book today and reading. I'm reading on my phone. I'm constantly going from one hyperlink to another. I'm consuming these short stories that a bunch of people are now putting out. I'm consuming short films. So we're in a world where expression is easier. It's just someone had to bring all these hungry voices together. And in the case of microfiction, we are trying to be that platform, saying if you have a story, we are listening. Tomorrow, we are going to give you your own universe to build your own following. But today, we are definitely listening, curating. So that's the goal for every one of you and us to write and express. Without, of course, the absolute nuisance that Facebook gives you with tons of ads. And so going forward with our own technology, our own app, we want to make the reading experience also beautiful. So you can read seamlessly as well, share it.
So could this be the beginning of a changing publishing paradigm? Do you think, have you thought about it?
Can
What
I,
mean-
can I
Yeah.
throw a little anecdote in?
Sure.
So I have a book of short stories published last year with HarperCollins. It had 49 stories, 22 of which were terribly tiny tales, which I sort of doctored a little and turned them into publish-friendly tales. And so when the marketing head of HarperCollins came to Bombay to meet me, and she said, why are these tales so small? How did you write them so small? I said, they were terribly tiny tales first. And this is the marketing head of HarperCollins. She fell off her chair. She said, I love terribly tiny tales. So the publishing paradigm is already changing. They just don't know it yet.
Earlier when we were talking, you spoke about, I think on Monday you're going to be on Snapchat.
Yeah, so we're also, so like if you look at modern media companies, so if you look at a BuzzFeed, BuzzFeed originally launched video on their app. So the original media model was like, you guys come to us please. We've built a website, we're going to clickbait you, you come to us. We get ad revenue through banner ads. Banner ads is like fucking archaic. Like who likes banner ads? No one does. People consume tons of TTTs because the ads are seamless, they're native, right? So native advertising, of course, is the new paradigm of promotion. So BuzzFeed then realized that people aren't coming for the videos. So they pulled out the video platform from their app and nested it on YouTube, saying people are on YouTube and we're going to go where the people are. So the modern publishing companies, so our app that we are building is not going to be the only place which will build us equity. Equity is distributed on Facebook, on Twitter. We've monetized our platform reasonably well without having any proprietary platform. We don't promote our website, we don't have an app. We're only on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and tomorrow on Monday on Snapchat. So the new publishing paradigm is to go where the people are. It's like, maybe you aren't cool enough to throw the world's best party, but there is the world's best party happening. So be the most interesting guy there. We want to be the most interesting guy on Snapchat. That's what we want to do.
Aren't you worried about the fatigue element? With Facebook, I think the overall readership is declining. It's, and I know you're using Instagram. If you could share some numbers and this, social media strategy behind that. Now moving to Snapchat. Snapchat clearly will open much, younger audience.
Yeah.
I know my daughter doesn't read my poetry at all, loves Terribly Tiny Tales. And she is on Snapchat. So there's clearly something that's happening. Probably the attention span is less, but they're also consuming it in that manner.
Yeah.
Millennials, and we're talking about Generation Z now.
It will be a very interesting experiment. If you guys go to the installation section, the Kalagoda street, just look at the number of selfies happening. It's insane. And the number of selfie sticks.
Yeah. We went there before this.
Instagram is going to be abuzz with hashtags, and so is Snapchat. Really, that's the modern world. People want to create content in a jiffy, consume in a jiffy. Our motto really is to, within that seemingly shallow universe, build a slightly more deeper connect with people.
Sorry,
Yeah.
finish.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
If you go on Instagram right now and just see the tales and see the comments, half or more than half the comments are, what does this mean? Hey, so-and-so tagging a friend, can you please explain this? Why we find that interesting is because even they don't get the finesse of the language of the construct or the idea, they're pushing themselves to read. And a lot of them are liking it even before understanding it, but they are at least trying to, break that barrier of, okay, we're the selfie generation, but we also want to be sapiosexual. We also want to try and understand. So I think that has been a small win for us, to sort of, could also be a pickup line. Right. Yeah, a lot of people, it's a tag fest on Instagram, and the good thing is that they're connecting with it in some way, they're interacting in some way. And even on Snapchat, again, it's known to be for photographs and for all kinds of photographs. But, here will be these people who are trying to make people read words. So I think the intent is in place. How we push it in terms of customizing it to Snapchat, A, B, programming, C, kind of stuff we do in terms of curation and the tales, that all will go as it comes.
Also the question of responsibility, to take a cue from what Dave was saying. Now if we're going to push the age group even lower, it's going to go to 10 to 12
12,
years.
14,
so
yeah.
Really impressionable. Don't you think then there is a certain amount of accountability? How are you going to build in, a decent readership that, what she's talking about? Can we also then use this medium, it's just a thought, to possibly get them to read, slightly more superior stuff which they, might not want to,
Is what is happening
you've got
currently.
the enablers.
Yeah.
But in the sense that, get them to read stuff which is literary as well. How can we weave that in?
Not just reading, you'll be surprised to know, currently, I'm talking as of now, live, because I'm curating. Our best writers are from 16 to 19. And this is something that we didn't expect when we sort of, thought of including. We have a 50, 60-year-old writer, we have a 30, 40-year-old writer, we have a 20-year-old writer, and then there are these young writers who are really pushing themselves to write better, and there are writers like Amrit and Jenai who are really fantastic, and all of them here have also been fans of them, so apart from reading, the fact that they're reading will trickle down to their text message and WhatsApp message, and those things happen, and which is a positive sign, I think.
Also posing this question about revenue generation, I know you do branded tales, right? It's important to really support and sustain the business, I'm going to call it that. How are you going to ensure that Pareto, the rule of Pareto doesn't sort of, reverse itself? Currently the number of tales that you're probably doing in terms of branded tales, don't you think you might get influenced by that? How are you going to manage that angle?
We have,
What
so
is it now?
again, I can just talk of now. We've been through the past, we're building the future. But as of now, if you go to the page, I keep saying this because that's a mirror, right? That's what's currently happening. Some people are stuck in the past, some people are building the future. Currently what is happening is, if you see the page, you'll see more black tails, which is our tails without brands.
Proprietary content.
Proprietary
And
content.
So 1 out of 4 tails is a brand tail. Yeah, but
And we say no to 70-80% of the brands. We get 2-3 brand calls per day. We only take brands that say, we respect what you do, we love the stories that you do, please don't change anything in your universe, make us a part of it, and can you seamlessly weave in what we stand for. Cornetto stands for love. We do a blind tale on love, we do an old tale on love, even though old people are not their consumers. We push them to
like homosexuality. Like,
yeah.
so we push the brand too. I mean, there are typically 3 ways in which we can monetize, right? Like one is to get brands involved, another is to sell the content, like in the form of books or in-app purchases, if you may, or maybe merchandise. So brands seem like a very organic part of this universe for us personally. We do a lot of feedback with our readers. At every workshop we do like a Q&A where we ask them if the branded content is intrusive, it's annoying. We take that feedback really seriously. If at all it does get to a place where it's influencing our content, the way we think about content, then the stories, then we'll do something about it. But today we feel like they fit really well, some of the brands.
Would you like to talk a little about your involvement with the mentorship on the branded content?
Well, how is it different? As a writer, it's obviously very different from writing for Select, because there are no restrictions. I can just say whatever I want to, and thankfully, neither Anuj nor Chintan tell me that my entire idea is wrong. It's usually, if at all, maybe just a couple of suggestions about a word here or there. It's a very different kind of exercise writing for the brands, and it's the first time that I'm even doing this, something like this.
Yeah.
So creating stories that have to, if not be sold, but have like a commercial angle to them. So it didn't come to me naturally, and I have to push myself to do it. I have complained to Chintan about it very recently and said that there are times when I write something and I don't feel like sending it out because it's not the kind of tale I would be a fan of. But I know that there are people who will like this, and so then I try and bring the quality up to speed. I try to make it as good as possible, even if it's not to my personal taste. So it's all about that. I'm really glad that Select exists, because honestly, if it didn't, then I might not have been that enthusiastic about being part of the branded campaigns. But it's good to have this other channel because it allows me to be creative and make my voice heard. As a writer, like purely when you're just talking about the writing and not what you're getting out of it, you just want your voice to be heard. So that's what that does. And as far as the branded content goes, I think it's also, what's also good about it is that it's not very, it's not completely tied to the product that the brand is trying to sell. So for instance, we are doing this campaign for Tinder. So, everybody knows what Tinder is about, but there is more flexibility where the tales are concerned. It's about new experiences. So Tinder, it's about meeting people for hookups or romance or whatever, but in a way it's also new experiences. So we were told, our brief was to write tales that have to do with new experiences. So
There you
it
go.
somehow reflects the ethos of the brand, and you don't feel boxed into this thing that I can only talk about this one thing that Tinder is for.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
How do you think you guys are being transgressive in terms of the content? There are some cliched themes that come all the time, but could you really talk a little about where there are transgressive?
We make cliches complex.
That's just a smart answer.
No, I'm,
Can I attempt an answer?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Again, like I said earlier, if it's something that has to be consumed in a 24-hour period predominantly, you can't control that. The most you can do is try and spread that a little thin over many categories, so that you hope that there's one category that will push the envelope and the other that won't. And there's another interesting thing about the online space that I saw. I'm going to try and make parallels with things in the past. The dot-com bubble. Then this bubble of blogs where everyone and their aunts and uncles were blogging. And I see the same thing with now, because TTT started it, storytelling online, and I'm seeing it with short films over the last 1 year. Everybody rushes in, everybody rushes in to write, create, because there is an opportunity to be heard, but the shit gets sifted out. It's a matter of time. So right now, I see TTT in that most critical state of flux where, they're still trying to figure how they can balance this quantity, quality thing.
It's an everyday
I think
thing.
in another year, 2 years, we will reach organically a place that we can't predict right now, where this discourse will change completely. Even with blogs, there are some bloggers that you might be following to date, but there must be 99 of the 100 bloggers that you heard of earlier that are gone because they wrote shit. So it's time. Time can only help sort of consolidate an endeavor like this.
What I'd really like to say that I've noticed, one aspect that I really want to applaud, because I've been working with various financial institutions. I think this is the most democratic startup that I've seen. I mean, I know they probably would be rogered with questions. They have a team member who's sitting here and telling them what she can and cannot do. I think that itself is a change, and I think a positive change. So that's something that I want to commend.
Thank
you. Bring that sort of ethos and that kind of atmosphere to a startup and to an organization. At this time, I would like to open the question to the audience. Please feel free to compliment or to fry them. Whatever.
Roast.
Yeah. So if you have questions.
Yeah, there's
someone there. Is that Sahir? No, sorry.
Hello guys, nice experience you got here. My one question is, how you copyright these things? Like by Nilesh could be anyone on Facebook, like you tag him or like...
Very good question actually.
It's true actually.
When the tale goes out on the page or anywhere else, it goes with the full name in the caption. So Facebook allows you to caption images. So Nilesh Mondal goes out in the caption. So anyone who shares it, shares the tale with the credit to the writer with the full name. Unfortunately on this, because of a lack of space, which we are also internally trying to accommodate, we can only put the first name. But yeah, it's something we will look into, because that's come up, well, not a lot of times, but it has come up.
Yeah.
So the copyright will remain with Nilesh or with you guys? That's my question.
So the copyright of the tale.
Yeah, of the tale.
So as of now, well, in terms of what the writer can do is, we have the license to sort of monetize the content, but the writer himself can also use the
He
content.
can publish his own book.
Like I said, 22 of the tales in my book were terribly tiny tales, and
Yeah.
I own the creative copyright, but they were free to use it in other franchise or merchandise.
Yeah, so we could possibly use it on a coffee mug. I mean, we take that permission. Going forward, we might be even more malleable, and like we want the writer at the forefront. But because we formed this and was a close-knit community, originally our copyright laws were more pandering to us, but increasingly we want to democratize that as well.
And one last question from me. And how you select it? Like, do people send you emails, or you have direct like a teamwork going on, like
So,
a brainstorming
yeah.
session, or like is it a live or is it a...
We have a bunch of very young curators with us who are very good writers themselves, so they are not just readers. And they sort of shortlist from all the tales that we get, and the best tales come to us in office through the digital medium. And we spend a lot of time on selecting which tale goes out, but the basic parameters are, is it a fresh approach to something? It can be love, but is it a fresh kind of love? Is the construct good? We have obviously wanted to weed out grammatical mistakes, and so we sometimes change some things here and there to make the tale better, and we send a mail to the writer and inform them that we take the liberty to change the tale only to make it better, but all the credit goes to you. We don't say we have changed anything. So yes, it should be fresh, it should be interesting, it should be short, and apart from that we have a few guidelines, like it should have a character, it should have a beginning, middle and end, and so most stories are
There should be a passage of time.
passage of time, yeah.
And it should be tweet sized.
Your middle is compromisable, right? I remember
Middle,
some stories.
there's no middle
beginning and
actually.
end, yeah.
Well, it's not a part of the guideline at all. So it's beginning and end. Because really there's no room for a middle.
Yeah,
But
but a
bust
lot
my
of,
back trying to come up with a middle.
yeah, but a lot of tales have middle.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
But in terms of a website, we're at terriblytinytales.com/submit.
That's where everyone submits.
Yeah.
Workshop tale or live tale or
Or Kala Ghoda tale. Like, we'd love for all of you to participate.
yeah.
Hi, I absolutely love Terribly Tiny Tales, and okay, so I just have one question. So I'm not going to name the particular I'm not going to name the person here, but there have been would you say like Instagram handles or Facebook accounts that have been trying to copy your ideas. When I say ideas, I mean okay. So Terribly Tiny Tales, according to me. So you have the concept of combining it's a concept of tiny tales. You express more in less words.
Yeah.
That's the
Sure.
whole point, right?
Yes.
Sure.
So how do you deal with accounts and accounts and people out there who are trying to okay, so Terribly Tiny Tales, it's working really well and people love it. So how do you work it with like people copying the same idea? How do you deal with it?
We write better stories next day. Yeah.
I mean, there's a bunch of ways to legally prevent it, but I mean, essentially, we don't want to fight that battle at all, unless, of course, there's explicit plagiarism, in which case we do take our set of actions. But
We have a
otherwise,
set of very young writers who are waiting to attack the moment there's a exact tale plagiarized.
Yeah.
So all those guys, we don't even have to tell them. They tell us this has happened and we've told them this. We have to calm them down and say it's okay. Let them do whatever they want. Lots of these platforms that you're talking about, the pages, they're taking our core idea and redrafting it to make it more dumber, so that more people like it.
But doesn't that make you angry? Because okay, as an artist, it's like when you create something, it's almost as if it's your own child. You're putting your child out there, or it's a creation of your own. So doesn't it make you angry? Like, and how do you deal with that anger?
Personally, as I said, I don't believe I create art. I express, and after that I detach myself. When somebody comes in touch with it, they interpret it in their own way. That becomes art. So I mean, I tell this to writers also. I think you should increasingly not get too attached to it, because then you feel bad and you stop writing.
and also, I mean, the truth is we've not invented the wheel, right? So, like, it's an idea. I think if there are more people participating, it's going to eventually benefit us, because there are more writers that we can work with who can participate in the world of TTT. We don't know where writers come from, so that's not a worry at all.
Can I add to that? As creative people, and I'm guessing even as entrepreneurs, there is a lot of energy you need to put into two things. One is creating something and putting it out there, and the other is trying to protect your ownership of it. And I realized early on that, that energy of trying to protect your ownership of it takes up so much of your consciousness and your time that it's better to let it go, because if you have one big idea, you'll have several. And to be a little secure in the fact that this idea was yours first, anyone who appropriated it later, it's always going to be theirs second. It's something I even faced in film, like I spent 6 months writing a screenplay and I go around narrating it to like 500 people. And I wondered, okay, now one guy can go back home, take my core idea and write another film and get it made. What do? Come up with another one. Because I'll spend 6 months fighting to protect it, where I can spend 6 months writing another script.
Exactly what I said. We write more stories, better stories the next day.
Thank you very much. We've had a wonderful evening. Devashish, Chintan, Anuj and Kruttika. And thank you for being a wonderful audience.
Thank you.
Keep writing.